since ChatGPT and generative AI exploded in popularity more than 6 months ago, business leaders and AI experts have called for better regulation of the technology. And recently, the federal government announced its plans to create regulations over the safe and responsible use of AI. In this Digital Nation mini documentary, we speak to tech leaders and AI experts about how AI should be regulated within Australia and how regulation will impact organisational leaders.
So with the AI landscape currently, we already do have some legislation such as that sits with the eSafety Commission, the Human Rights Commission, the Online Safety Act and Privacy Act. So there is already some regulation that can apply to AI, but it doesn't specifically apply to AI. So that's the first thing I would say, that we need to extend existing regulation. That's the fastest way to do it, to apply to AI. And then ultimately, I believe we need an AI safety regulator, which is what Ed Santow, the previous Human Rights Commissioner, also called for. But I imagine that could be 2 to 3 years away.
Kate Pounder, CEO at the Tech Council of Australia, says AI should be regulated methodically and thoughtfully in a risk-based fashion.
But AI is also a new tool, and they come with different risks, and they come with different practices. And so what's really important in our regulatory framework is that we're thinking about those and working out how we manage them as a society and what outcomes we want from them and what outcomes we don't want from them. And that's, and that's not an easy task because of the diversity of those applications, because of the diversity of their risk profile, because of the diversity of issues they raise. So that's why I say that methodical, balanced approach will also be necessary if we want to, not because we want to slow down regulation, but if we want to make sure the regulation we put in place works and has the outcomes that we need.
Dana McKay, Senior Lecturer Innovative Interactive Technologies at the School of Computing Technologies at RMIT, says Australia needs local specific regulation and specific Australian oversight.
If I were to make a recommendation about how to regulate AI in Australia, I'd be looking for an Australia-based panel of digital ethicists, community members, technology community members, to essentially be an oversight body to regulate those technologies. And essentially, look, I know that a lot of the Googles and Microsofts of this world might be a little uncomfortable with this, but we do need to have oversight of these technologies. So, whatever NDAs are needed for these people to actually oversee the technology and say, okay, that's safe, but that's maybe not safe in an Australian context. Because of course, we've got a really old culture in Australia that probably hasn't been taken into account in any of these models. So if these models are making suggestions or decisions, it probably won't be taking those cultures into account. For example, we have a different defence context in Australia. We have a different border context in Australia than many other countries in the world. We have different climate contexts. So essentially, we need to ensure that whatever generative AI technologies are being used in Australia, they take that context into consideration. And as a really simple example, things like, what side of the road should I drive on? If you ask ChatGPT that without any context, it might well say the right, which in Australia doesn't work.